Yep, and we are recording. Yes. Hi, good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Doing well, Malay. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Interesting times, and luckily, I am feeling safe here in my city.
Good. That's really good to hear. I'm glad you and your family are doing well, feeling safe. How do you ever worry about for anyone who may be listening, we're talking about India and Pakistan and the epic history of um these two rival nations and people that are also linked. It's like a civil war, but not a civil war. It's kind of interesting to me, but at the same time, I don't have to live through it. So, like, do you ever worry about any of that in your area? Like any of those issues, really, like terrorist attacks, for example, or anything like that?
Um, like something very interesting, which like you pointed out, and even Donald Trump pointed it out that these two civilizations and not countries, these two civilizations have been fighting for centuries. So the tension between religious groups, namely Muslims and Hindus, is something that um, is somewhere in the back of mind for everyone, for every Indian, um, and Pakistanis even, and Bangladeshis to some extent. Um, However, terrorist attacks with use of firearms and such. Fortunately, with this government, with the Modi government ever since 2014, uh, attacks inside the nation have been significantly reduced because I was very young back then, but I remember the time of 2012 2013 when uh, there would be bomb blasts and attacks, like 10 in a month, 10 11th attacks in like uh, sometimes in 1 year there would be one attack each month, and the death toll would be 16, 17, 20, 26, 4, 5, sometimes 100. So
Oh wow, I didn't know it was that many.
it was
'Cause I
bad.
remember there was the Mumbai terrorist attack. I think that was it. It was like a
2611.
big one.
Yeah, that was a big one.
Yeah.
2611. Yes.
When was that?
So 2611 was in the year 2008, and it was uh, it was a significant attack on Mumbai after the 1998 serial bomb blasts. So Mumbai is the financial capital of India, and that is also where a lot of our production of movies and all happen. So it's majorly where Bollywood is based. So all the famous people live there.
And excuse my ignorance on all these
No
topics.
worries.
Okay, so you're seeing the pure American intelligence going.
No
So
worries.
Mumbai used to be Bombay, correct?
Yes, yes.
And why was it called Bombay? Was that the British name for it?
uh, uh, Even I'm not sure of the reason why it was called that. I don't know, but
Um,
it has a port, so that, it's connected
I'm
to the
gonna look it up
sea.
real quick.
Yeah, like why was it named Bombay? Let's check. uh,
Um, why did
okay, so it's an anglicized corruption of the Portuguese name, which stood for Good Bay. So essentially it is linked to shipping and trading and all. So
okay?
the Portuguese used to call it the Good Bay, and from the Good Bay, the anglicized corrupted word came Bombay.
Okay, then Mumbai is, I guess, the local people. I
Uh,
just saw something about
so the state is Maharashtra, and so for that state, Mumbai, once there are a lot of cities in India whose names have been changed for cultural reasons, for appropriation reasons, sometimes for political reasons.
it. Like the actual nation of India, I think to a lot of Americans is still like a mystery. Like they did it, like the lack of understanding. And I'm like educated, and I'm still like I was just thinking about how much I don't know. This is like an area, and it's not like intentional or anything like that. It's just um, unless you do like a specific India studies class, which actually I did take that. I wrote a whole paper on Ashoka back in the day.
Oh, Samrat
The old,
Ashoka, yes, the emperor.
yeah, Ashoka. I can't even say his name right. Um, and that was one of my lower grades I got in college. So I was I got a B minus on it, and so I guess India studies has never been a strong point of mine. So I'm very interested in like learning more about it to sort of fill in that gap of knowledge. So these terrorist attacks, have they been happening since the split?
Right. So it depends on what one calls a terrorist. If you're talking about non-government violence on non-government, mm, if you're talking about violence done by people armed by one government on innocent civilians, uh, then that violence really started after the partition. Yes, but violent skirmishes between groups of Hindus and Muslims, that's a tale as old as the violence between Christians and Jews. So it's as old
Mm,
as time. Um, so India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Myanmar, uh, they're all they were all part of the same greater subcontinent under the East India Company, um, the British, and slowly and eventually the British started making different administrative zones, and then finally uh, when the Second World War came to an end and decolonization started happening, countries uh, countries formed, but national identities still remained uh, something of a gray area, because the partition of India and Pakistan is was not a normal partition where two people who said, "Oh, okay, we are a different bunch," because uh, it was, I think, the first and only nation which was divided on religion. Pakistan is the only nation which was divided on religion, right? And it was weird because all
yeah.
other nations were based on language and ethnicity and race. This was the first one.
The only thing, no, you're right. Only thing I can think of is maybe similar. Israel
Israel.
comes to mind a little bit. Israel with Gaza, and
Is
maybe
Israel a
like,
nation? Do we really know?
um, I have some differing thoughts on Israel, but it's a nation. It's
It's the 52nd state for the United States of America.
you can argue that. Even though they're not always, they're not very nice to us either. But I also get their point of view that they're a small country and they're fighting for their survival. But um, if we treated Zelensky in Ukraine by calling him in and basically saying, "Where's the thank you at, Zelensky?" Like JD Vance did that. Why aren't we doing that to Israel? Where's the thank you at, Netanyahu? Because they've bombed us before. Like they destroyed one of our destroyers before, the USS Liberty. They spy on us, but we spy on everyone too. But their Mossad is totally like nasty to the CIA. Like it's not like everyone imagines like we get along and we don't. The
Israel
CIA and the Mossad.
affects US election a lot more than people realize. They try to control media outlets. A major lobby behind banning TikTok is actually the Israeli government, and
Yeah, they're
for good
very
reason.
concerned. It's fascinating. You know that, and so many Americans don't. It's really fascinating. That shows you the level of PR that they have. Like my sister-in-law does PR in New York, public relations, great gig, but she won't even talk about something like this because it's so taboo in New York City. Um, like just like you mentioning that would be controversial, even though it's a true fact. Like APAC is the big thing that does that. And for all the people that say, "Oh, Russia's interfering, China's interfering, India's interfering," I mean, maybe digitally they're doing a little propaganda digitally. Maybe it to impact U.S. elections, you have to use money. That's the number one way you impact things. And Israel uses money. There's a tracker that tracks per spending that APAC does. Almost every single congressman has an APAC person
Mhm.
that advises them on Israel issues. So, their hands are deep, deep into our society. And that only makes the conspiracies grow.
And I mean,
So,
everyone's got to survive, right? And in a world ever connected uh, by the internet and the media and the news, so it depends what one calls an interference. I mean, like, it's interference if it's not directly affecting you and you're trying to influence the outcome of something. If it affects you, is it interference or is it the democratic right to be represented where you're paying taxes?
that's a great point. That's a great point.
So if the
Because,
survival of the Israeli state depends on getting weapons and support from the US, is it interference?
oh, that's a great question. And considering that not everyone, but probably like 50 to 60%, off the top of my head, I don't know if that's
Yeah.
accurate, but a lot of their citizens are dual American citizens. Also, dual Florida citizens. A lot of them live in Florida. And, they're lovely people. So that's a great point. So I'd actually, maybe you're right with that point. Maybe it's not interference and it's just, they're doing it. It's legal too. Like it's not like they're doing anything shady. It's on the
I mean,
books. It's out in the open.
I mean, voting by mail is legal, so why should this be a problem? Like,
Eh,
I mean,
That's going away. That's not going to happen again. That definitely was kind of shady. You
I mean,
know. Eh,
the US lost the right to lecture anyone on free and fair elections the moment ballot paper were coming by mail.
So that's a big psyop. The whole idea that we have 100% fair elections in America, on the surface and in the open, yes, but all the stuff that goes on underneath it, like in 2020, when Trump was making a big deal about losing the election, saying he didn't lose it, he actually had an argument. He just could not. It was one of the few things he couldn't. Um,
Articulate well.
yes, he couldn't explain it, but it was the Hunter Biden laptop being that whole story being censored. It's the mail-in ballots, um, and the COVID vaccine not being released, being held back on purpose, so he didn't get credit for it. So just those things alone are enough to sway an election in
And
America.
also because he's Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
So
They kicked up the chaos too,
yeah,
in
and
a major way.
I get that skepticism. I mean, so it doesn't see in an ideal society, uh, ad hominems and these things will not matter. It would not matter who's saying something, and what he's saying should be the actual topic of the conversation. But we don't live in an ideal society, and I'm sure uh, if someone who's well liked by the people um, raised the issue of, hey, maybe mail-in ballots are, not the best way to uh, most safely practice our democracy. But it's because Donald Trump is saying it, so it maybe that like
Yeah,
kind of pushes people away.
you're absolutely right about that. But over time, like after 2020, common sense does arise, and most states quickly got rid of that because it also can disadvantage both parties. So, but the Democrats were ahead of the curve on the different ways to get out mail-in ballots to ensure almost every one of their voters could vote. Like they were really good at that. Um, and then they sort of lost their way during the Biden presidency. But 2020, they were on their game. And then Republicans, led by the governor of Florida, really led that very well to get a ground game going. Like everyone talks about in like our democracies, all these corporations that control everything. To an extent, they're the money, but in reality, it's grassroots on the ground. People knocking on doors, community groups, um, and in Florida, that really was where it started. So, and the Democrats stopped doing that for whatever reason. People, it might have to do with the feeling of things and the economy. And the Republicans were all pumped up. Then you had that bullet whiz past his ear or hit his ear. They even got more pumped up, and they felt it was like a mission from God to elect him. You know.
Yeah.
But so when did the partition happen?
1947. So
$1947.
the same year that India received independence. So the physical partition of land and migration of people, that happened in 47, but the ideological lines and the theory of the two nation theory and the idea that Muslims or other minorities would somehow not exist peacefully alongside a majority Hindu nation, that idea is not very new. So uh, even when there was a struggle for independence in India, inside the British government, there were different factions of the independence movement. Some were looking for a dominion status, while as some wanted complete and autonomous independence from the British rule. Uh, and it was within these factions that there were some people who started to bring forth ideas of what would happen once we gain independence. And so after the formation of Indian National Congress, the INC, which was supposed to be a representative of the Indian people, there were talks, and there might have been some executions of this as well. I'm not sure, of Muslim only representative seats where only Muslim candidates would contest and only Muslims would vote. Um,
Mm.
I'm a little fizzy on the exact history of it, whether this was ever executed, but I know that there were talks of this uh, inside the freedom movement as well. That should there be fixed representation or proportionate representation inside the nation once we have independence.
Um, in your opinion, how are Muslims in India treated in actual India?
I mean,
Sorry if that's
yeah. So since India is like really diverse, it's very difficult to pinpoint and say. So if you look at some states that lean very heavily towards the right, I live in one of those states. I live in Uttar Pradesh. Our chief minister is a Hindu saint. Uh, like so, the image or the perception that the Western liberal media and Indian liberal media has that Muslims might be really oppressed in the state. Uh, it's not entirely true, but the thing is it's not entirely wrong either. So if someone has some personal hatred towards a person of certain religion, that person in his individual capacity will exercise it. How? Very similar to how people in America exercise their hatred towards people of other sexual orientation, by not economically empowering them. So if I have to, let's say, get some carpentry work done, or some um, uh, any service work, or like, let's say I want to get my ceilings or some stuff upgraded, I would look for a specifically non-Muslim or perhaps a Hindu shopkeeper or a Hindu serviceman to do that same work, uh, instead of going to a Muslim, if I were someone who quote unquote hates the other religions. So and what the state does is that the state, the BJP in particular, they are accused of turning a blind eye when these things are happening.
mm.
um, some people say that, oh, it's a polgram. No, it's not a polgram.
It sounds very similar to African Americans kind of in the South, you know.
uh,
Well, because it's not nothing really official once segregation ended, but there's definitely, like, for example, when I accidentally butt dialed you yesterday at
yeah.
Walmart and you asked how come things aren't locked up. Because in that particular Walmart, um like stealing never got so bad in the area that they decided to do that. And in a lot of areas, Walmart would just close down the store if the stealing got too bad. But those are generally in like white areas. For whatever reason, if they're in an African American area, they'll keep going, but they'll just lock things up. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know why they would do something like that, but overall, Um, you know, and for whatever reason, there is a difference there, and you can trace it back to a lot of different things and segregation. But like you said, there's unofficial policies that, not policies, way people treat one another that still
Yeah.
affect things. But the overall oppression, it's not really, it's there, but not there.
It's
That's
maybe
why the
in dinner
debate is
tables.
so.
Yeah, it's in dinner table conversations, and maybe on a very small, like very micro levels. In uh, I mean, it's not like if I go to my university campus, right? It's not like if there will be a bunch of Hindu guys standing, and if a girl is wearing a hijab or a religious wearing, they would start harassing her. No, that doesn't happen because it shouldn't happen because nobody's that stupid, right? uh,
Mhm.
but also on the other hand, um, I cannot speak on behalf of a minority group because I cannot say what it feels like to be less in number of something you had no control of. So if I was walking down the streets in Florida where everyone would be wearing anti-immigrant T-shirts and stuff, and
Yeah.
I am a visibly brown Indian on the street, even though they're not directly harming me, I would feel intimidated. Uh, Sheer because that's how power dynamics works, right? If if I'm
Yes.
surrounded by white cops and I'm a clearly brown Indian guy just standing there, I would feel like I would be on alert, of course, but there's nothing happening. So I should neither cry for oppression and they should not escalate the feeling of me being the isolated one over here. So it goes both ways. uh,
That's a great way to describe it, and I would agree. And it all depends on the situation, because I would say, like, not really migrants and not really Indian migrants are treated that way. They're usually very accepted because they assimilate into our society very well. I think maybe it's the English, maybe background,
could be.
ability to speak English is a big part. Um, but like illegal immigrants, they're the one, I would say that is the big underclass right now in America. Like, those are the people you go to get stuff done for cheaply. They're the ones like that are really, talk about segregation. There's these little towns in Florida. I used to go to them. My grandma was a big time Presbyterian Christian, and she would go do mission work in these communities just to help them. She was a nurse, and she would take me, and the level of poverty that I saw in these little towns that are next to farms, like, it was like you wouldn't think that would exist in America. It was like a commercial from, like, just to sound bad, like Africa or something. Just the level of poverty and like dirtiness, and it was just really sad. So that oppression does exist in America, but it has more to do with not having citizenship and being part of this other thing. Um, like this other, I don't know how to describe it, being an illegal immigrant. Like,
Yeah. So
it's very complicated because the economy in Florida relies on this class of people. Like, our economy is based around it. From people to pick fruit on farms to people that work construction. So it's a very interesting concept to talk about, but very few people ever talk about like illegal immigrant rights until now with what Trump's doing, which is pretty crazy, sending people to El Salvador. Um,
I mean, yeah, and so I mean, I'm not denying the fact that yes, there are people in India who hate Muslims, and there are people in India who hate Hindus. Uh, and there have been instances of Hindus assaulting Muslims, and there have been instances of Muslims assaulting and killing Hindus. Yes. Um, the institutional and the government response to this is usually the opposite of one would imagine. So one would imagine that we have a Hindu nationalist prime minister or a Hindu nationalist chief minister. So
mhm.
they will turn a blind eye towards this, right? They will support the Hindus, right? Eh. So our Supreme Court and all of the institutional and government bodies, they heavily tilt left towards protection of minorities, and this is something which the right wing was successfully able to actually reach to the ground level and penetrate this idea into the common masses that, hey, in the name of secularism, there is some appeasement happening at the bottom. And it's very difficult for someone to actually say that, oh no, you're wrong. Because in India, Hindus have to be secular. Otherwise, the other minorities won't exist. We are 85% of the population.
Huh. That's fascinating.
So,
So, and that's such a complex issue, not easily solved. So, have there been terrorist attacks in your area
not
ever?
in this city. So, the city that I live in, it's a very lazy city. Like, people wake up at 11, 12. There's a shop in my area that sells rolls, like shawarma rolls and stuff. It opens at 3 p.m. It starts at 3 p.m.
That's insane.
because the people sleep.
When
So
does it close?
10, 11ish at night.
Oh, okay.
And so Lucknow
That's pretty
is.
wild.
So this was the. So I'll tell you a very fascinating story. So the last quote unquote Nawab of this. So influential, rich rulers of this city, this region, they were known as Nawabs, and uh, he was once being attacked by some group. I can't exactly remember, and he was sitting on his throne. And do you know why he did not escape with the rest of the members and his army? So everyone escaped. He was just sitting there, and when the enemies came to his palace and they asked him, "Hey, why did you not escape?" He said, "Oh, the guy who's supposed to make me wear my shoes has ran away, so I cannot wear my own shoes because I'm a Nawab." So just because there was no one to make him wear his shoes, he did not run away. He sat on his
Oh
throne.
man.
So
Wow,
that's
talk about wealth and privilege.
this city has been very fortunate. It's a city of foodies. We have lots of food, and religious tensions in the city, fortunately, have been very, very minuscule. Uh, Generally, the population mixes very well over here. Uh, but again, I come from the privilege of spending my teenage years in the BJP-led government, and the reason why I support the current regime is not because they are the best; it's because they are the lesser of the two evils. So one thing which this
Mm,
government does right is national security, uh, and that is a good thing because I
yes.
yes. So I mean, it's a privilege. It's really a privilege. My parents do not have to worry about me getting blown into bits. They have to worry about me getting scammed in the market, buying fake tofu or like buying food that might not suit my health. They don't have to worry about some terrorist coming up and shooting me up. There were minor bomb blasts at the railway station back in the day, but that was like really way, way back. Nothing major.
Okay. Um, so the partition happened, and then um, I know there was wars in the 1950s, right, between India and Pakistan.
So
Because I know the
1947,
U.S. would try to support both sides,
yes. So
just to make
major wars like war, uh, that was 1947, and that was the one for Kashmir, the battle for Kashmir. That was the war. 47. Then we had one in 65, 1965. Then we had in 71, and then 99.
no 99, not recent.
Kargil, the the Kargil war.
And it's just, is it all over Kashmir or just like border disputes?
So one angle of looking at it is border dispute. The another angle is the religion card in this, because one cannot deny that the religion of that nation has played a significant part in its hatred towards the Indian state. And it is really high in Kashmir because of the history of it. Because so when the partition was happening, uh, oh, the power went out. When the partition was happening, um, it was so the British made a plan where they said, okay, so there will be two nations, Pakistan and India, and there were several princely states. So the prince of Lucknow that I told you about, the guy who forgot the shoes,
Mm-hmm.
there were about 500 or around 600 of these, and the British said that you can either join Pakistan or you can join India, or you have the money, like why don't you form an independent nation of your own? Because European nations are very small and India is
Yeah.
huge. So they thought, why not? And so there was this the ruler of Kashmir at that time. He was a monarch. His name was Hari Singh. So he was Maharaja Hari Singh. King in India is called Maharaja. So he
Okay.
was King Hari Singh, and he was a Hindu. But okay, the exposure has really much better. Yeah. So he was a Hindu, but the majority population of Kashmir was Muslim. So huge population of Muslims living under a Hindu ruler just on the border
Mm.
of Pakistan. So the leader of Pakistan at that time, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, said that, hey, shouldn't Kashmir like join us because the majority population is Muslim? And the Indian side was like, hey, but their leader is a Hindu, so he should join India. And the Maharaja, being the king, the monarch, he said, I have mountain. I will make this place Switzerland. And the day he said that, the night of the same day, Pakistan attacked Kashmir. They attacked Kashmir. They wanted to forcefully annex it. And then the Maharaja wanted India to, quote unquote, help them. And India said, hey, why should I send my soldiers to fight for your country? You're Switzerland, right? Oh, he said,
Yeah.
oh, no, okay, fine. I'll sign the instrument of annexation. So the king officially signed the instrument of annexation and said, okay, I want to be part of India. And then India sent its army. We fought off the Pakistanis, and then the matter went to the United Nations. And uh, then they said, okay, so Pakistan will withdraw its military, India will keep minimum military presence, and then there will be a quote unquote plebiscite. It's never gonna happen. It has never happened. It will never happen. Um, and the fate of Kashmir has ever since been hanging, because it is a beautiful place. Geographically speaking, it's beautiful. Uh, Socially and politically, it has been a boiling mess ever since the partition, uh, because of the religious angle behind it and the fact that um, it's locked in between three nuclear powers: India, Pakistan, and China. So
And I believe the Muslims in that area, are they the Pashtuns?
no,
Is
no,
that the
no,
same group? And no.
no. They're different. They are so the
Oh,
original population of Kashmir. They were Hindus. They were known as Kashmiri Pandits. But some of them converted and some of them migrated, and eventually it became like a mix of all populations, but majority Muslim. Now, after partition, slowly the Muslim population, with assistance from the Pakistan's intelligence and military forces and paramilitary groups and militants, uh, started incursions and violence against the Hindus in the valley, the Kashmir Valley. And in 1991, 1990, those times, they were the most horrifying times for the Kashmiri Pandits, the Hindus living in the valley. And so some people call it an exodus, and some refer to it as a genocide. The exact numbers are like widely debatable, but millions of people had to forcefully leave their houses uh, because of the situation. And so Hindus had to leave their homes in Kashmir and run away for safety. And this was the time when situations were so horrifying that the daughter of the home minister of the country was kidnapped by Kashmiri militants and terrorists. That is the equivalent
mm,
of the daughter of Secretary of Defense of the United States being kidnapped for tensions in one of the
mm.
states. Like, so things became very serious. And so after 2014, when the BJP came to power, people were expecting some normalcy to start in Kashmir, and it did. It did actually. But then again, we saw what happened on April 22nd, which was like a snap back in history all over again.
So what exactly happened on that day?
Okay. So on on April 22, 2025, there's a place in the Jammu and Kashmir. It is known as Pahalgam. Now, around 30 minutes of hiking uh, from Pahalgam will bring you to a place which was recently opened for tourists and tourism related activities. um, the thing about that place is it is not reachable by motor vehicles, so you either have to take a donkey, or you either have to hike on foot or you use some animal. And it's an isolated place, but it's very beautiful to look at. So a lot of couples and tourists actually visit that place. And 5 to 6 like numbers, like mostly news channels have said 6, so I'll put that number. 6 um, terrorists, most probably Muslim. They came with AK-47s and various other assault rifles, and they asked the people, the men who were present there, hey, are you a Hindu or a Muslim? And if they said that they are a Hindu, they would be shot. And if they tried to
Ooh.
lie, they were told to recite the kalma or some Islamic words I'm not sure of. And even if they had a, like even after that, if they had a doubt, they would ask them to show if they were circumcised. And yeah, so this kind of targeted, selected attack against Hindus, and specifically Hindu males, uh, was something that India had actually never seen before, because this was devastating. And there was one of the victims, her name is Pallavi. So she said, now this is what she said to the media channels. She said that when they shot my husband, I was crying and I begged them to kill me too. And she said, and I quote, so one of the terrorists said to her that, no, we will not kill you. Go tell Modi that this is what we have done. So the nation wanted heads to roll.
They won. That's such a crazy thing
Looks
to
like they
like.
told Modi.
Yeah. So
And
what happened after that?
after that,
What was India's
Pakistan,
response?
after that, Pakistan is being begging to the world to stop India from annexing them, because yeah, the prime minister does not take lightly to these kind of events. So ever since this government has come to power, we've shown it time and again that, hey, these things will not work now, because each and every time prior to this, when terrorist attacks would happen, Pakistan would always deny it. They would always deny it, and the international community would not really care, because why would they? And India did not publicly respond, or even if they did respond, there were no optics for it, right? Because it was covert operations and covert missions. This government has made a very good habit of publicizing the responses that we give to terrorist attacks and terrorist threats. And yep, and on May 7th, May 8th, uh, India carried out an operation which was named Operation Sindoor. Now that has a lot of so the reason why I say that India has started focusing more on its optics now. It's because of these things. So sindoor is a yellow orange powder that Hindu women put on their foreheads once they get
Yeah.
married. After they get married,
Yeah.
so in significance, when the terrorist killed the Hindu males, the significance was it that they removed the sindoor, they wiped off the sindoor of those widowed women, and so to avenge that, India carried out this operation. So that's why we called it Operation Sindoor. And
Oh, so that is good optics. That's
and
good. That's good PR, like
uh,
for vengeance.
yeah, and not just that,
Um,
the press conference which we announced this, it was done by two female senior military officials, one from the Air Force and one from the defense. So it was female officials who actually announced this thing. So the optics of it were really good, because these are things which the Indian people need. You cannot be rational with the masses. You can be rational with the academic elites and the people in the defense higher up, but the people want heads to roll. Like,
yeah.
the people want
So
blood.
did y'all do shoot missiles into Pakistan? Because
Uh,
it hit our news. They were talking about it. They just don't go into details well. They just talk more about they use it to create fear, whatever their own agenda. But they were talking about it.
so there have not been many details out yet, but what is generally accepted consensus in public is that we use the French Dassault made Rafales, and so they struck with missiles which were capable of hitting beyond visual range. So the aircrafts were inside Indian airspace, and they hit 9 targets in Pakistan occupied Kashmir and along the lines of the line of control. And we hit 9 terrorist bases. Some of them were inside mosques, and yes, we have used missiles to hit them. We've used drones to hit, and the aircrafts which we used, one of those aircrafts is the French-made Dassault Rafale. I think we might have used the Sukhois and all, but not really sure on what was used how. I think in a couple of months those details would be out. So currently there's like a slew of misinformation around. So I'm currently relying on the government trusted sources right now. So that is the visual story of it, which is out, something which is well known that okay, this has happened. And so did the
Those
immediate,
targeted like
okay, go on, go on.
terrorist bases, so they took out the terrorists.
Yeah,
Like
the
that
breeding and
that
training
sounds very
grounds.
rational.
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
the
it sounds
training
very
grounds of the
rational.
terrorists. Yes, terrorist training grounds, and some very famous, not famous but well-known terrorists were eliminated. One of the terrorists that was eliminated was the one that killed an American Jewish journalist a couple of years back. Um, let me search for the name of that guy. I think he killed that American Jewish journalist on camera or something. Uh,
Oh, that's interesting because that shows you just how well America is tied in with Pakistan for us not to send our own drones there to blow up
yeah,
those bases. Because
Abdul
usually, if you kill an
Rauf.
American,
Okay, yeah,
we're droning. You know.
yeah. It's yeah. American Jewish community thanks India for eliminating Islamist terrorist Abdul Rauf Azhar. Uh, he yeah. The journalist was named Daniel Pearl. According to reports, Abdul Azhar, an Islamic terrorist, co-conspirator of the 2002 abduction and beheading of Wall Street Journal reporter Daniel Pearl.
Oh, that's right. That was nat. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Well,
So
good for India.
yeah,
Getting
we
rid of that guy.
we killed that guy. Uh,
Yeah.
so
You know, that just shows you just how weirdly tied into Pakistan we are for us not to do that. When, we're killing aid workers in Afghanistan left and right on accident with drone strikes, you know? Um,
U.S. tax money at work, baby.
yeah, and I just, it goes back to the Cold War, our ties in with Pakistan, and I and how we also try to like stay friends with India, but it's not like they've been a great friend to us, Pakistan. So
uh,
uh,
I mean, so the immediate
it boggles my
aftermath
mind.
of the attack. Yeah, go on, go on.
I say it sort of baffles my mind. Like just for them to have a terrorist and us not to do anything about it with all of our CIA and stuff, and that guy was just running around to do something else horrible, you know. So it's just weird to me, you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, and like people do question this, but I think CIA would have been aware of his existence. I mean, I really find it hard to believe
oh
that
yeah,
the CIA was not aware that this terrorist was
oh
living
no,
in
they were.
Pakistan.
It's just they didn't want to ruffle Pakistani feathers for whatever reason. Um, Maybe they're scared of Chinese influence and this or that, but you know, I'm pretty sure Pakistan relies heavily on our aid as well.
Of course, I
Um,
mean, Pakistan is one of those gems which the America let out and now is not able to put it back in, just like you guys did with the Afghanistan and Yemen and like almost all rebel groups, except the 4 or 5 that the Russian Federation, like the USSR, raised back in the Cold War days. I think, uh,
yeah. Um, so what happened recently, like with the peace deal, uh,
yeah,
ceasefire? I don't know what to call it.
ceasefire. Yeah, so what? So like the immediate aftermath of the Pahalgam attack, like I'll just take it a few weeks back, was that Indians were fuming, uh, and everyone was waiting for the government to respond. And another thing that rose inside India was that, so there's something known as reading the room, which Indian liberals have a habit of not doing. They read all the books, they read all the reports, they read all the American journals and newspapers, but they'll not read the room.
Liberals in America have that same problem.
Read the room. And immediately the response was, even before the right wing could get angry, even before we knew who to blame, guys, it's not about religion. Let's be peaceful. Please don't. Why? Like, guys, it's not about Islam, guys. When did I say, like, guys? Islam is a religion of peace. But I, what? I, so this is something which, like, even so it's strange, right? So let's say you are in a Walmart and suddenly all the PS5s, all PS5s and PlayStation 6 and Xboxes get stolen, all of them. And even before people realize that this has happened, there are people outside the mall saying, guys, black people are not stealing Xbox 360s. But I never said, why are you apologizing for something that has not happened by your own accord?
And that was a great example you just used, because that does happen in America after riots or something. That stuff will be said, and then videos come out, and that only what liberals don't understand is that intensifies racism when they do stuff like that.
Yeah,
It just makes people think about it more and get angrier about it. It's
it is about
such an
religion.
insane problem.
They were asked to check, like, people asked to see if you are circumcised or not, and they were shot for. People died for being a Hindu in a secular country. People will be angry, and if you are a liberal, you will understand their anger. They're not exercising it, they're not going up beating innocent Muslims just like the Muslims did. They went around and beat up
Mm-hmm.
innocent Hindus, they killed innocent Hindus, right? uh,
Mm.
and like, it's just called reading the room. And something which Indian liberals just don't understand, if someone started talking about peace just after 9/11, he would be slaughtered. People would lynch
Oh,
them.
that
People would lynch them. Okay.
yeah,
People have
yeah.
guns
No,
in America.
if there was some Islamic attack in America like that, we would be going to war for 20 years. Like that's just what we like. That's the amount of anger.
Didn't that already happen?
Yes, I'm saying that's what we do. We would be drawn into a
Yeah.
long, drawn out conflict, and
And
um,
it's, I mean, see, the government is there to facilitate what the people want, and the people want heads to roll, right? Now one might come and say, "Oh, this is the nation of Gandhi and all that." Yeah, you guys killed Gandhi too. So yeah, you know how he was killed?
um,
He was shot with a gun.
yeah.
Yeah. So
So
maybe look into
what?
the history of it.
So your government responded appropriately, and there was legitimate fear over here just about things, tit for tat escalating into nuclear exchange. Maybe they have the capability in Pakistan, maybe they don't. Um, was that you think that was going that way, or was Pakistan more just, doing like a little brother slap you and run away type of thing? You know.
It was so the thing with Pakistan is that their nuclear arsenal. So it's kind of like Taiwan's Silicon Shield. So the thing with Pakistan is that it's the only Islamic nuclear power. So it has support from the Islamic countries in that regard. And the reason why the US is concerned, it's because US is the global police force, and it's because it's an ally of Pakistan, of course. Uh, the biggest fear in this conflict is that, uh, and also the biggest lesson that the West and everyone else can take from this, is that do not let a state make itself so poor and so rogue that it becomes a danger to others. Because if it becomes a danger to others, it will eventually become a danger to itself. Now, the thing with Pakistan is that if push comes to shove, they will use the nukes. They will use it. I have no doubt they will use it. But Russia has not used it yet. They are in a war for the last 2 years, 3 years perhaps. They have not used nukes. North Korea has not used it yet. No country has used it yet. The fear that the US and the world right now has is that if Pakistan collapses internally, the nukes will be in the hands of some rogue terrorist. The thing is, Pakistan is the rogue terrorist. And the thing with India is
Mm.
that if the West wants a solution to it, the best way to solve it is let India take over them. It's simple and easy. We invade, we capture the strategic command, we take away the nukes. Problem solved. But the US would not let that happen because, of
No,
course,
it's interesting because I agree that for the safety of the world in the future, you're absolutely right. And it's almost like the Iran nuclear issue. You just can't afford to have a state like that with a nuclear weapon. And here we have Pakistan, which is that result, right?
and
So I almost agree with you that like an underground like operation, like a covert operation to go either take out their any nuclear capability that they have, or take them over. Now, I do think that would end up in a nasty guerrilla war. That
but Pakistan
different,
is already inside a guerrilla war. It's Pakistan is not one nation. It's four groups of people fighting like monkeys. And
yeah, because it's Lahore, right?
Lahore
The
and
city,
Islamabad,
like,
yeah, the two main
okay,
cities.
and then you have the rural areas that are just fighting the city areas. Would you say it's like that?
So it's mostly because so whenever we have a country, right, we have a society where we have representatives from each area, and then each representative tries to um, get more and more industrialization and more development for their own sorry their own regions and stuff. The thing with like so this is something which has been said multiple times in across Indian media is that Turkey has an army, United States has an army, India has an army. The thing with Pakistan is that it's not that Pakistan has an army, it's that the Islamic military has a country. Countries have armies. Here, an army has a country. Do you know, for fun fact, in Pakistan, ever since 1947, no prime minister has ever completed a full term of 5 years.
Really?
Yep. You can fact check me on this. No prime minister has completed a 5 year term in Pakistan. None. Zero.
What happens to them?
They get killed by the military or they vanish or there's a coup. There's always a coup. Uh, they are imprisoned. Something always happens.
Oh wow, I didn't know. So it's a really unstable state.
Yes, and I don't know why people are afraid that, oh, if Pakistan becomes unstable, what do you mean becomes? Is there something more unstable than Pakistan? Maybe a uranium atom, but nothing like what's more unstable than Pakistan? Why? And the thing is that this conflict, and time after time, every time Pakistan cannot and should not be allowed to use this excuse to do whatever it wants. Uh, because they are already a beggar country. They produce absolutely nothing because they're a military run dictatorship. They are a dictatorship. It's run by the military. And if this is something which they'll repeatedly use an excuse that, oh, I have nothing with me, what else are you going to take away from me? And this is the same thing that the quote unquote impoverished communities in the West use as an excuse to break the law. That, oh, what are you going to do? Put me in prison? Well, half of my cousins are already in there. 16 of my cousins are in prison. What are you going to do? You'll run out of
Oh,
prisons before you run out of criminals. And that is exactly what is the situation is with Pakistan is that if the West and countries at large do not understand this game, um, the losses will be global, and India will not and should not be expected to keep suffering again and again the murder of Hindus uh, because of this nonsense that, oh, you cannot retaliate because it's a nuclear country. So are we.
no, I agree. So the ceasefire,
I'm so
who orchestrated that? Because
yeah,
I
I'm so
read
sorry. I
some
really
papers.
forgot about that. So what happened was that
No,
yes.
no, 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 no. Listen, you're teaching me a lot and giving me a very good perspective. Don't think you're not. Like my mind is just taking in all this information.
Uh,
Um, because like over here, they just pump up the nuclear stuff, right? Like,
uh,
oh, and then there'll be a chain reaction around the world, and like yada, because it's and so and then that will put people's opinion in this area, which then again drives our government and what they do
so,
to
like to
panic about in if there was a nuclear exchange, there like the fallout from that would I think prevent what they're actually scared of happening, which is
to
every
any
other country
American
jumps in with their
watching this,
nukes.
any American person ever watching this, if you're worried about Pakistan's nukes, they cannot throw them to India. Like, don't you guys are oceans away. Nothing from Pakistan is ever going to hit you unless the CIA decides to smuggle drugs from Pakistan into black communities. Nothing from Pakistan is ever going to reach you guys. No need to panic
Well,
about it.
they're already doing that. So
I am sitting way closer to Pakistan than the United States is, and I'm not at all worried about Pakistan. I'm not worried about their drones. I'm not worried about their aircraft. I'm not worried about their artillery. I'm not worried about their nukes. It's a
now,
dog who's barking.
did the U.S. actually lead the ceasefire? Is that true or not?
This is really funny. Day before yesterday, the Vice President of the United States, JD Vance, said, and I quote, "India and Pakistan is none of our business." Okay, fine. Yesterday at 5:25 p.m., Donald Trump tweets that we were involved in hour-long conversations with both countries, and thanks to me, they've agreed. Thanks to me, they've agreed to a ceasefire, and the people in India looked at that tweet and like, "Hey, is he talking about red Indians or something? Like, which Indians is he he's when did Donald Trump become my president? Why is he mediating it? Does he know where
Well, he
Pakistan
takes
is on a map?
he wouldn't, but it's just about taking credit. That's what he does. So was the U.S. involved at all or no?
I'm not sure. So 5:25 p.m. he tweets that, "Hey guys, I orchestrated a ceasefire," and 5:30 Pakistan attacks us with drones. And
That's not good.
so, so either he was lying, in which case he looks like a fool, or he was telling the truth, in which case he looks like a bigger fool.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I don't think he was lying, and that's actually really bad for Pakistan if they agreed to some ceasefire and then just ignored him because if you make him look like a fool, he is a very vengeful person and they'll lose all support. Like because Zelensky didn't thank him. He nearly pulled all of our support from Ukraine. So and
Let's see.
they rely solely on us. Um,
So
so does
I'll just
Pakistan make their own?
see. Yeah, no,
Where's
Pakistan
Pakistan
usually
getting their?
buys them from Turkey. They
Uh,
they buy it from Turkey. I'll just share my screen and yes. Okay. So yes. Uh, can you see?
mhm.
Okay. So this is the tweet. Uh, Over the past 48 hours, Vance and I have engaged with senior Indian Pakistani officials, and including Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Shehbaz Sharif, External Affairs Minister, so and so, for something, something, something. This is 6:30 p.m. Right? And I'll just open Donald Trump's tweet for this also, if I can find it. Basically, they said, oh, they want to like have ceasefire and stuff, and like 5 minutes after this, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir tweets that. Hey, Pakistan is attacking us with drones. What exactly did you guys discuss on the call? What did the orange man say? I think it was. Where is that tweet? Wait, I'll just open Twitter and see if that. Let's see if we have Donald Trump's tweet here. Uh, what the hell? Hmm. I hate this. Okay. So let's look for Donald Trump. So, yep, this one. Uh, After a long night of talks, why is the US president engaging in long night talks with India and Pakistan? Made by the United States, I'm pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries. Blah, 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 blah. May 10th. All right. This was Donald Trump's tweet. And let me look for the chief minister of. Uh, it's Farouk Abdullah. I cannot find his account. Why can't I find his account? Anyhow, so like basically, the chief minister of JNK tweeted out that, guys, we are still under attack. I don't know what was mediated and who agreed to a ceasefire. As of now, there is news of a ceasefire, but the Indian media is like really hating on Trump right now because this is a common pattern. And also because like this is foreign interference. This is clear foreign interference. Because in 1971 we had some India and Pakistan had something called the Shimla Agreement, where we said that any disputes between India and Pakistan will be resolved between India and Pakistan and not be escalated to UN and such foreign bodies. So why, how, and all of this was for nothing? Then, like the Indian taxpayers' money went to waste. If we do a ceasefire now, we gain nothing from it.
So, how would you like to? What response would you like to see?
I would really appreciate if India actually takes back the parts of Kashmir which are under illegal occupation by Pakistan. Uh, at least that's the least. And the four terrorists who did the Pahalgam attack, the six or four terrorists, I'm not sure on the numbers. So, uh, however many people who were involved in this directly and indirectly, I at least want them neutralized. That's the least which the Indian state should do. And if the international community wants to help, maybe they can provide surveillance and intel for these. Maybe they can. Uh, See, the thing with human rights and international organizations and all these things is that they are only as good if they are a proactive force and not a reactionary force, because then they look like that high school teacher who's like taking the side of the bully once the quiet kid starts fighting back.
That's a yes, and I think it's only. I think what your answer is actually very appropriate. Um, Taking back what's rightfully India's, Kashmir, um, and taking out the terrorists is, I think, an appropriate response. Um, and the U.S. definitely could, with our surveillance tech, ability. I mean, they could, with our satellites, we could definitely find these people very easily for y'all. I don't know if we would do that, um, but I would support
I mean, even
us
the Indian
looking to the.
government could technically do these things. I don't know why they're facing these challenges, because the Indian government does buy Israeli spyware to spy on its citizens
Oh,
and its
okay.
political opponents. So why are they not utilizing these? Maybe the terrorists are using burner phones or something like that. Maybe they are not communicating on uh, meta-based communications apps. So there might be a lot of technical stuff into it. But the most important thing is the Indian taxpayer was finally starting to be happy about their tax money being spent well. The average Indian's pride and uh, the interest that peaks in times of these national crises, especially when you're on the winning side, that is uh, that is really good. The government was getting so much hatred for their inaction on so many things that just seeing the S-400 system engage incoming projectiles gives people an immense sense of patriotism, and they say, okay, I'm totally fine with whatever amount of tax I'm paying. People were making memes about, okay, if this is where my tax money is going, I'm happy, I'm glad.
Oh wow.
And that is a sentiment you don't really hear from the Indian middle class who sits in front of laptops in air conditioned rooms. They usually complain about taxes being high, but when we saw that, okay, there are 400 drones in the sky and none of them hit a target, that's crazy. That's better than Israel's
Yeah.
Iron Dome. That's crazy.
Yeah. That's awesome. With how unstable Pakistan is, do you believe the Indian intelligence is like infiltrated them? So I imagine that wouldn't be that complicated, but I'm
Uh,
not, aware of the situation.
so the thing with Indian intelligence is that currently what they do is really, really good and very secretive. All these unknown gunmen killing people in Canada and killing anti-Indian people in US, uh, they are all Indian intelligence. It's all India. You remember a couple of months ago when the Canadian Prime Minister was crying that, oh, Indian people are killing our active citizens when we took out one of the Punjabi terrorists, one of the Sikh terrorists.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Indian
Yeah.
intelligence. Yeah, we did it. I can say it. I'm not a diplomat, nor am I on a government position. I did it. I openly say India did it. So
Oh
what?
wow.
So what are you gonna do about it? You're not the prime
Yeah,
minister
Canada's a
anymore. Justin Trudeau can cry.
well, Canada is, they used to have such a powerful military and they've just really fallen apart. And I know they've let in a lot of migrants, but I didn't know really that a lot of them were from probably Pakistan.
Pakistan,
So
Syria,
Punjabi terrorists.
India. Yeah, there are people from lots and lots of places, from Asia and Central Asia in Canada, and some of them harbor anti-India sentiments very clearly. And the government of India did try to communicate this with the Canadian counterparts, saying, "Hey, this guy is a wanted terrorist. He's threatening Indians. He's threatening the sovereignty and integrity of India. Can you guys do something about it?" And they said, "No." Okay, fine, I'll do it myself. So the Indian intelligence community is, I believe, they're doing a good part, and this is also the time to highlight something very important, because a lot of Indian intelligentsia and Indian academics uh, and people, especially who are skeptical of the BJP government, were trying to say or follow the same exact script that follows every single attack in India. That this was an intelligence failure. Therefore, it's the government's responsibility. Therefore, the government should resign because this was an intelligence failure. I wrote a very detailed and precise paper on this thing back in my first year of college. That how the Congress led government had systematically destroyed India's intelligence and surveillance capabilities back in the day, about technical support division, about dismantling the units, and sending the top officers on punishment postings and stuff. So I'm someone who's very well versed with these things, and anytime the Indian opposition talks about intelligence failure, like, yeah, you guys would know. Yeah. If
Well, if there's like an intelligence failure, that means more money should be put into it, in my opinion. Like, that means something went wrong and there needs to be restructuring. Doesn't I don't think it means people need to resign. Um, or they need, yeah, like that's an interesting thing because almost like what you said, they defunded it and then they would use it a way to like try to get rid of their opponents.
yeah, I mean, the thing was that when these people say this thing, they don't want to make the government more accountable or the intelligence more uh, more robust. What they are inferring to especially people from the political line, when they say this is an intelligence failure, what they are trying to say but are unable to say, they're dog whistling essentially. They're dog whistling that the government did this attack themselves so that they can harbor the nationalistic and patriotic emotions to win state elections. This is what they're trying to say.
Okay.
That is the India's equivalent of 9/11 was an inside job to justify America's invasion of what, Syria or whatever. Yeah, so it's the exact same narrative, and this is every single time. This was after Pulwama. This was about after Uri. This was after every single attack. This was after 26/11. So that this was an inside job so that the government can get votes. Really,
Oh wow.
Narendra Modi government has won landslide margins. They are the only government in the history of India to win a complete majority by a single national party. Do you think they need votes?
Um. So where do you see this going? I got the family just arrived, but
Sure, sure. Uh,
so to end this, what's your prediction for the future on this?
I'm not really sure. I have no idea where things might be headed. But if the international community has intervened, Donald Trump is a guy who does not like to be wrong. So, yeah, you remember how he drew a sharpie to say that, oh, the tornado is going to hit this place and stuff. And he has refused to admit that those 1 3 MS were letters then photoshopped on top of the knuckles. He does not like to be wrong.
No, he
And
doesn't.
so if, like, I'm pretty sure he'll say that, oh, the time zones are different, that's why by the time I tweeted about the ceasefire, Pakistan did not know. So he will try to spin that narrative. But if the international community has gotten involved, as unfortunate as it may be for Indians, and it's a very hard pill to swallow, but I think attacks on aerial front will stop. However, India will and should continue espionage and other quote unquote covert activities in Pakistan and keep disrupting its neighbors, because that is the only way going forward. If you do not actively engage them, they'll keep disrupting peace. The economy of Kashmir is going to take a hit because tourism there will not go away, and religious tensions in India uh, might see a small outburst again. Um, Other than that, I see a very clear divide between liberals and conservatives uh, in India, because I saw a lot of Reddit posts about these things, that every single time an attack like this happens, uh, the Bollywood and our top athletes and these people who are very quick to sympathize with the Pakistani artists and musicians, they're not really speaking anything against them explicitly, not drawing their clear boundaries. And it's not just them, but it's also the Indian academic and the Indian elites who start talking about peace as soon as India has the edge in any conflict. So
Mm.
I see an India more divided, but at the same time more united, if it makes any sense.
No, that makes sense. And you know, I'm for India on this one. I hope the terrorists get what coming. It's coming to them. But I also hope for peace too. I mean, but at the same time, I get India's stance on this. So um, I gotta run. But I hope
Sure
you
thing.
and your family remain safe. I know
Thank you.
y'all are, but you feel I have to say that. But
Fortunately,
thank you so
like,
much
yeah,
for.
this is a very safe conflict for like a lot of Indians. So the only people who have some fear are those like very close to the border. And if my words are if my words are worth anything, don't be. You guys are in the safest possible hands. The Indian Defense Forces are incredible at their job, and nobody's scared. Indian college kids are making memes. Like, to the Pakistanis, how pathetic do you have? You could not cancel a university exam. The universities are taking mid-semester examinations. They're taking end semester examinations in the middle of a war. You couldn't cancel a, you could not cancel the mid-sem examination of universities in India. Do you think this people in the US are afraid of the nuclear arsenal of Pakistan? Indian
And y'all
universities are
aren't.
taking
That's
extra
great.
classes. We did not cancel our exams. People are afraid of
uh,
war. People are going to office in India. They're eating shawarma. They're having lunch. They're having family dinner. They're celebrating. Swiggy, the food delivery app in India, is gifting people the pageants for best mom ever for Mother's Day. Nobody cares. The country is running fine.
Well,
No
that's
need to
that's
worry.
good to hear. Thank you so much for educating me on this. I learned a lot. Um, and well, we'll see what happens with this. Maybe we'll talk again in the future about this. I'll learn a little
Definitely.
bit more. Um, but I hope you have a good rest of your night and great talking to you again,
Same
Malay.
thing. Same here. Same here. Exactly. It's always great talking to you.
All right. Well, we'll talk again soon. And until then, enjoy your Sunday
Yeah.
or Monday. Is it
It's
Sunday?
it's it's Monday. It's like Monday midnight.
All right. Well, enjoy your Monday midnight, and I'll talk to you soon.
Same here. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye bye. Same to you.
Bye bye.